In 1965, when two cosmonauts landed back on Earth in the snow-covered forests of Russia's Ural region, they worried their basic pistols wouldn't cut it against the massive bears or hungry wolf packs roaming the area. Even though the men made it out without running into any animals, the concern stuck. How could cosmonauts better protect themselves if they landed somewhere dangerous? That's how the TP-82, the Soviet cosmonauts' go-to survival weapon, came to be. Designed with input from former cosmonauts, this gun was built for the brutal conditions of Soviet territory, not for fighting Americans, according to documents and interviews with ex-cosmonauts. It was used by space crews for nearly 20 years, and dozens of astronauts visiting the International Space Station have trained with it. A few have even talked about it publicly, though it's pretty much an open secret. To this day, Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, won't discuss the weapon. But if there's any doubt the TP-82 was real, just check the Russian History Museum. One's on display. Back during the Cold War, some in the U.S. space program doubted its supposed non-combat purpose. Before the Space Shuttle program, crews needed a protective capsule to shield them during re-entry. For example, Apollo program crews landed in the ocean and were picked up by the Navy. But for the Soviets, things were different. In the 1960s, the Soviet space program developed the Soyuz, their own spacecraft launched on a rocket. Like the Americans, they used a capsule for re-entry, but instead of splashing down at sea, it landed on Soviet soil. Music. With over 8.5 million square miles, the Soviet Union was the largest country on Earth. A space capsule could easily get lost in that vast wilderness, and that's exactly what happened to cosmonaut and Air Force Major General Alexei Leonov in March 1965. He and crewmate Pavel Belyayev were part of the historic Voskhod 2 mission, where Leonov became the first man to ever perform a spacewalk. But things went sideways fast. Their spacecraft lost stability for 46 seconds before re-entry, sending their capsule hundreds of miles off course. Flight controllers had no idea if Leonov and Belyayev had survived. Their families were told they were safe and resting. In reality, the men had crash-landed in the remote, snow-covered forests of Russia's Ural region. When it became clear no rescue was coming soon, they prepared for their first night in the brutal wilderness. At the time, the Soviet cosmonauts' survival kit included a Makarov pistol, a compass, matches, a machete, a fishing kit, a strobe light, a radio, a medical kit, wool clothing. NASA missions also packed machetes for the rare chance of a jungle landing. Since both men knew the taiga, the Russian term for snowy forests, they carried loaded guns and plenty of ammo. It was mating season, meaning bears or wolves could turn aggressive. Luckily, a Russian aircraft spotted them, but the woods were too thick for helicopters to land. The cosmonauts endured a freezing night inside their capsule at -20 degrees Fahrenheit. The next morning, a rescue team skied in, helped them light a fire, and they spent a slightly warmer second night before skiing to safety the following day. Leonov and Belyayev became legends among Russian cosmonauts. Even 55 years later, their survival story is still told, though rumors have twisted it. Some claim they fought off bears or that wolves scratched at their capsule's hatch. The truth? Neither saw a single animal. The only wildlife encounter was a rescue plane scaring off a wolf pack miles away. Still, the horror of that ordeal pushed Leonov to demand a custom survival gun for future missions. Music development began in the late 1970s with Leonov's input and a team of experts at the famous Tula Arms plant. The result? The TP-82, a triple-barrel shotgun that became standard in Soyuz survival kits by 1982. Rumors say it was also issued to Soviet Air Force crews at risk of crashing in hostile environments. At first glance, the TP-82 looked like an oversized pistol. But it was actually a convertible shotgun, a double-barrel shotgun paired with a short rifle barrel. Out of its 3 barrels, 2 fired 40-gauge shotgun shells, while the third, the rifle barrel, used the same 5.45 by 39 mm rounds as the Soviet AK-74 assault rifle. The gun's buttstock was detachable, making it easier to stash inside the cramped Soviet space capsules. It also had a hidden machete blade, perfect for chopping wood for fires or shelter. This thing was powerful enough to stop a 1,000-pound brown bear, yet compact enough to fit inside a spacecraft. Music astronaut Dave Wolf, who spent months aboard the Russian Mir space station in the late 90s, called it a wonderful gun. He said, "I found it well-balanced, highly accurate, and super convenient to use." Music, after its debut, the Soviet Union issued the TP-82 on all missions. It first flew on the Soyuz T-6 spacecraft in June 1982, and by 1986 it became a permanent fixture in every survival kit. Better to be safe than sorry when facing down a bear. The TP-82 stayed in Soyuz survival kits used by international crews until 2007, when officials announced its ammo had expired and the gun was phased out. But after NASA retired the space shuttle in 2011, all ISS crews relied on Russian Soyuz capsules. Even though the TP-82 reached the end of its lifespan, Soyuz survival kits still include a Russian sidearm, likely an MP4 43 Grach or Makarov pistol. That said, Roscosmos, Russia's space agency, won't confirm the TP-82's use or any replacement weapons. Before launching on a Soyuz, astronauts go through brutal training. Their prep includes system and equipment maintenance, workstation organization, mission control, communication, scientific research, hardcore survival drills. The survival training includes a crash course in wilderness survival, with exercises conducted in both the Black Sea region and Siberian forests. These drills focus on marksmanship and survival skills, all inspired by cosmonaut Leonov's harrowing Voskhod 2 experience. Interestingly, neither NASA nor the ISS has ever released official footage of this training. The only known photos showing the weapon in use feature 2 space tourists who happily posed with the gun during their preparation. Today, the sole remaining TP-82 sits in a Moscow museum. According to space journalist James Oberg, writing for IEE Spectrum, modern ISS crews are now given a choice: carry a sidearm or not. Most reportedly decline. Oberg strongly argues against weapons in space, stating, "We know the presence of a gun, especially considering recent psychological stresses among space crews, could potentially lead to disaster, as research continues to reveal how space missions affect astronauts' mental health. Psychological well-being has become a top priority." Oberg argues weapons should only be included in spacecraft under very specific circumstances. In his article, he suggested firearms should only be accessible if the capsule lands off course, their original purpose anyway. The journalist proposed storing the gun in a locked compartment that can only be opened from outside the Soyuz, ensuring astronauts could only retrieve it after landing. However, Oberg's proposal never gained traction. Today, with pinpoint GPS accuracy and advanced satellite communications, a repeat of the Voskhod 2 emergency seems extremely unlikely, though not impossible. Case in point, in 2008, a Soyuz capsule landed 250 miles off target after mission control lost contact. The crew, including South Korea's first astronaut, used their satellite phone, now standard in survival kits, to call for help. They were off the grid for nearly an hour. According to Oberg's 2014 report, the gun remains an official option for astronauts who want it. While a standard pistol wouldn't stop a charging bear, it could prove vital in other survival scenarios. But whether the weapon's true purpose is animal defense or not, arming space missions remains a sensitive issue.